Hello out there, my name is Laolu Akonde and you are on to Inside Sources. My take for today entitled President Tinubu, the North and the 2027 elections. For those who genuinely care about Nigeria's welfare, the narrative of northern marginalization under the current administration looks like a joke. Let's be honest. Most of those pushing this narrative are using it to further their own political ambitions, particularly in the lead up to 2027. It's not so much about the people. While it is true that Nigerians are suffering and policies implemented by the federal government contribute to this suffering, it is also true that those policies were endorsed by virtually all the leading presidential candidates in 2023. The reality is that the political elite, both in the ruling party and in the opposition, are more concerned with winning the 2027 elections than with addressing the suffering of the Nigerian people. Take insecurity, for example. The federal government is struggling, clearly, to combat it. But the opposition hasn't offered any meaningful alternatives either. Similarly on poverty, the Tinubu administration in the last 2 years have not done a lot, but only days ago announced the renewed Hope World Development Program. Yet the opposition hasn't provided any serious critique or alternative solutions either on fighting insecurity or poverty. The same goes for corruption. While there are allegations and counter-allegations among politicians, even on national TV, Babacha Lawal calling the Lagos-Calabar Coastal Project a scam, and Minister Wike calling out the wife of Amechi regarding NNDC fraud allegations, the fact remains that both the ruling party and the opposition, they are not doing enough to fight corruption. An example, the Unexplained Wealth Bill is languishing in the National Assembly with inadequate support from the lawmakers across party lines, whether it is APC or ADC or PDP or HELP. They all have members and sympathizers in the National Assembly, but all of them are turning a blind eye to the begging of the EFCC chairman, Mr. Ola Olukoyede, who in the last one has been appealing to the National Assembly to pass the Unexplained Wealth Bill. What is more, the issue of constitutional reforms, which ought to be a major talking point for 2027, is being ignored by both the administration and the opposition. It is telling that northern political figures like Dr. Rabiu Kwakwanso are quick to criticize the administration for spending on the South and ignoring the North. And this has been cleared out, that 52% of what is being spent on infrastructure is in the North. 52% is in the North. But it's clear that the concerns of many of the gladiators seem more to be driven by political posturing than genuine concern for northern development. In reality, most of these criticisms are mere red herrings designed to further political ambitions rather than serve the larger interest of Nigeria and Nigerians, whether it be in the North or in the South. And so it is time to reframe the narrative and focus on pressing issues that matter to the Nigerian people. Multi-dimensional poverty, how do we fight it? How do we end banditry and terrorism? How do we reduce insecurity? How do we fight corruption? And how do we get a true federal constitution that we can truly say, we the people? And so as we approach 2027, let us insist on a more meaningful approach to politics, one that prioritizes the welfare of the Nigerian people over political ambition. And let us keep faith with the rotational principle. That is the rotational principle of the presidency, ensuring that the South gets its turn fully from 2023 to 2031. The North had it from 2015 to to 2023 without any significant southern candidate in the major parties trying to upturn the table. Fear is fear. Let us keep the rotational principle going. And let us keep the people in view for 2027. And I mean both the people in the South and the people in the North. And there you have it. Inside Sources. We'll be right back. Welcome back to Inside Sources. Today, I have a loaded panel to discuss the future of Nigeria, specifically around the subjects of electoral reforms, opposition politics, and also 2027. Now, I'm talking about two important Nigerian politicians. To my immediate right, I have a former member of the House of Representatives, who is now a member of the ruling party's National Working Committee, Mr. Duro Meseko. Welcome to Inside Sources for the first time.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for coming. Also, I have with us today, to his immediate right and my far right, the chairman of the Action Democratic Party, who is the former chairman of the Inter-Party Advisory Council, Alhaji Yabagi Sani. You're welcome to Inside Sources.
It's a pleasure.
Also for the first time.
Thank you very much.
All right. So let's start with Mr. Meseko. Now, you're a member of the National Working Committee of the ruling APC.
Yes.
You yourself, you've been a politician for a long time, certainly since the commencement of the Fourth Republic. So I'd like to have your view. You were in the House of Representatives. Do you think that the issue of electoral reforms generally are important as we go towards 2027?
Of course, absolutely. The issue of electoral reforms cannot be overemphasized. And you will recall that with the advent of democracy in Nigeria, from 1999 till date, there have been reforms, year in, year out. So even in the United States, they are still reforming. And even other countries of far advanced democratic nations of the world. So we cannot be different. So it is very important. It is something that we have to take very seriously if democracy has to take roots in Nigeria, and we want it to take firm roots. I personally commend the effort of the National Assembly so far. They've tried, from assembly to assembly to try, to, put in place one reform or the other in order to, exacerbate, the development of democracy in the country. So, yes, it is good. If I have to answer your question, that we need reforms and we must not rest on our oars until we get to the promised land of what we want.
All right. Thank you so much. Let's take it to Alhaji Sani. If you also agree, and I assume, what do you think ought to be some of the priority reforms that we should introduce?
Yeah, well, I totally agree with my colleague here because when you talk about good governance, there's no way you can divorce that from the process of election of people that are going to preside over the affairs of the people. If you have a corrupt system of election, then you are obviously going to end up with corrupt people. And therefore, issue of good governance will become a mirage. You may not get it because people that are there may not have the empathy. They may not share in the passion of the people because they are so disconnected. So this is why the reforms that, like he says, are very important and fundamental. Number one, I think we should start with, which also I'm sure National Assembly can handle, which is the issue of how we appoint the people. I'm talking about the regulatory agency now. The INEC people. Is key because if we do not have a process where you will truly make INEC to be independent, then you will just be economical with saying that you want free, fair, credible elections. Because if they are appointed by the same person that is participating in the elections, in most cases, of course, the president also is a participant in the election, and he appoints all these presiding officers, from the INEC chairman to the REC and whatever you.
And the national commissioners.
The national commissioners, thank you. So there has to be maybe a multi-stakeholder mechanism by which we can appoint these key people that are going to be responsible for free, fair, credible elections. You could probably try to see, maybe, I don't know, extend it to even the police, how you appoint the IG, commissioners and things like that. Because the key agencies, two leading agencies in any election are INEC and the police.
Okay.
Of course, you have other agencies that, of course, are responsible for one thing or the other. But the key leading agencies are these agencies. So if these agencies are appointed by somebody who is also a participant, then your guess is as good as mine.
Right.
Then coming to the process itself, there's the issue of collation. In fact, let's take it from the issue of accreditation. Wonderfully, I mean, the Beavers is a game changer because it has done one thing. You can't have people voting more than once anymore because of the rigorous, exactly, near perfect system of verifying who you are and then allowing you to vote. So that has taken care of a huge aspect of the area that affects the credibility of the elections. So, but there is still something that is left out. Two things actually.
Okay.
Number one is the transmission of the results.
Okay.
It must be made sacrosanct that you must transmit, from the voting point to the INEC portal so that RF will become, useful to the citizens. A case where INEC has a choice to either transmit automatically or resort back to
manual.
The one that we have already rejected, with all its loopholes and things like that. It's not good enough for our election.
All right.
So the issue of transmission must be made sacrosanct, that it must be by law. You must transmit, electronically. Yes.
So you said two things, the transmission and collation.
And collation, exactly. Collation, like the saying is that it's not those who cast the vote that determine who wins, but those who count the vote. And then because the counting, like either as a result of environmental error or human error, you may get numbers different from what actually, the people, are voted for. So these, amongst other key areas that we must take,
So what do you want to happen in collation specifically?
Collation should be automated.
Okay. Should be also
the advancement we have achieved in technology today, adding figures will not be anything that is a problem.
Well, normally adding figures ought not to be a problem. But good point. Let's take it to Mr. Niseko. So how do you respond to Alhaji Sani's ideas that, first of all, we shouldn't have the president, appoint INEC commissioners, whether at federal or state levels, and also that we should try and free even the appointment of the police IG, away from the president, because the president himself, whoever it is, the president, is also an interested party. How do you respond to that?
Well, I agree with my senior brother here, as to the issue of reforms that is needed and some of the areas he listed. Well, I would disagree with him in the area of the appointment of IG because, all over the advanced climes, I think the appointment of IG or the head of military of any of the nation rests squarely, with the commander-in-chief, who in this particular case is the president, of such a nation. Yes, I agree with him that, of course, the appointment of INEC presiding officers should be done, by some, form of, I don't know how we do it now, but the framers will know how to go about it. not the president, not the state governors this time, for a free, all my life, I have been an advocate of free and fair elections. So I agree with him. And I know we'll still get there, with time. We'll get to that level. Okay. Yeah, but the appointment of the Inspector General of Police, I feel, in my own view, that should still be left with the government of the day.
But you agree that, we should try and free up the president from the appointment of INEC commissioner?
Absolutely.
Because it's reasonable. Even the Uwais, the Justice Mohammed El Uwais commission had actually recommended that. But it wasn't accepted.
Yes.
And many of our brothers and leaders who are in power today actually supported the Uwais commission report. So hopefully this is a reform that we can get to.
But also very important, is the swearing in of whoever is declared as the winner.
Okay.
I don't think it will serve the purpose of the justice if somebody who still has question mark on his election and has been properly filed already should be sworn in. Because once you swear in the president or governor, he becomes an institution. He's no longer an individual that you are dealing with before. Because he has all the paraphernalia of the law, of the government at his disposal. So this is why our laws should be amended so that anybody who wins must wait until, if at all you have any case to answer, as a result of the elections, because of our environment, we should, otherwise what you will have is that you may not have what you should have in terms of justice.
Yeah. I'm trying to, just before you respond, Mr. Abiseko, I'm trying to remember, what happened in previous republics. And I remember in 1979, under the Second Republic, specifically after the presidential election when between UPN and MPN, the two leading candidates, in any case, it was UPN that came second, the MPN won, and then Chief Obafemi.
Is it the 12th to 3rd?
Yes. Yeah. I think that matter, just to as an illustration of what Mr. Sani said. I think, if I recall it very well, and both of you, you're much older than myself, you'll probably be able to tell. But I think the matter was concluded before the swearing in, but I don't remember exactly. But I just wanted to lay that on table.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, the one that Richard Akinjide,
yes,
he interpreted the 12 to 3rd to mean right. And then on that, then
so Mr. Moseko,
yes.
think, and if you also
I agree with that. That all electoral issues should be sorted out even before swearing in. It's a good thing because you find out that even most governors or presidents or members of National Assembly or other, offices that are elected in Nigeria usually spend a good part of their tenure, running into court up and down and all that. I know it hasn't augured well for the system. So it will be a very great development. if we can achieve that. Another area of reform that I think should happen is also in the area of protection of votes. You find out that for now, maybe because we are still under police or something, you find most of the voting points are really not too secure to protect, the votes. Coming from, the people and all of that.
Especially distant places.
Places. You find, riverine areas, this, so it has always been an issue. So how do we get around that?
No. Yeah. So that's the moment we can take care of collation.
Okay. Yes.
And the moment you insist on transmission of results, that digitally, then because a winner will be known.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Yes.
So it means that right from the point of the voting and counting, the result is recorded and transmitted to wherever the
everybody is aware. Like what happens in other developed so-called developed
absolutely
areas.
Okay, so do you want to land on that?
Yes. So we are saying the same thing.
Right.
We're on the same page on that score.
I mean, this is quite interesting.
Exactly.
Because, I mean, the only thing that we haven't agreed on is the appointment of the
I
IG.
talked about the security aspect of this. Even the collation, for instance, if thugs invade the place, you won't even be able to transmit.
Exactly.
Before they disrupt it.
That's true. Yeah.
That's the issue.
So that
must
something has to be secured.
Exactly.
Yes.
For you to be able to, the atmosphere must be conducive for you to be able to transmit.
Exactly.
Yeah. So that's what.
Okay.
I'm talking
all right.
about.
So what this seems to suggest to me then is that we do have a major need. It will seem to actually fix the Constitution itself, because some of these things also derive from the Constitution. A lot of, I mean, even the very idea, and there's a lot of argument about this, the very idea of having the national electoral body, taking charge in the states. Because, look, I mean, we all know what is happening in the states. If the governor, it is the governor's party that wins all the local governments. Now, so people are saying that, look, let's make sure that it's the National Electoral Commission that goes there so that there is a bit of independence. But people are saying that, no, that's not federalism. That's not federalism, that you should let everybody in their own states, the federating units, do their thing. As a matter of fact, and this is just theoretical, you guys will interpret it. In the United States, it's the states, even in the presidential election, it's the states voters board. Even in the counties, they're the ones that do the reporting. They do reporting to the states, and then the states will now bring their reports to Washington, D.C., and what happens there is that their own NEC, which is composed of representatives of both parties, that's how the Americans do it. Their own national electoral body is, they have co-chairmen. So Democrats have a chairman, Republicans have a chairman, they have a co-chairman. So they come and sit at a gathering in Washington, D.C., and all the states, voters board, they bring the report, and then it is certified. If you remember, that was what during the election of when Biden defeated Trump. That was where Trump was asking his vice president.
Yes, the electoral college.
When he now brought it to the Congress to knock it out. Yeah. So my point is that if we want federalism, why are we saying that INEC, as it is considered now, should be running the elections in the state? Of course, we know that, something seems to be wrong if it's only the ruling party that is winning there. So how do you guys respond to this? I don't know who wants to go first.
Well, I don't know. I think, like you rightly said, it has to do with our constitution, because that's the grand norm. But the issue is that constitution, like is a living document.
Yeah.
It's not something that is fixed, that you cannot touch. So as you go on, you have to keep tinkering with the Constitution to respond to the dynamics of the situation, as you move on. So having said that, yes, the elections at the third tier of government, which is local government elections, it's a charade, like we all know. Yeah. It's a mockery of democracy.
The results seem like it.
Yeah, it's a mockery of democracy. And this is not peculiar to a particular party.
No.
That you say is that this. Like you rightly said, every governor, just declares himself, as the emperor.
Even the chief of staff of one of the governors has come on TV to tell us that they wrote the report in their state, in Rivers State. The man came on TV. No, said that we wrote the report in the governor's office. No, on TV.
Now, in a situation where a chairman of a particular party that resigned just a few weeks ago or months ago was appointed as the state INEC chairman. Can you imagine? The chairman of a particular party in power, after resigning from the position or removed from the position, now was appointed as the state INEC. That is state chairman.
Where was that? I missed that completely.
It's in the North Central. I won't say, because if I say, I'll be pointing to myself.
Okay. I didn't. So okay, wow.
It is, and the chairman is sitting, there as the person who will now preside over the elections. That's it. It's as ridiculous as that.
Little golf, because I think it's the law, which is why the constitutional grand number is very important.
Exactly.
You know,
to look into and then see how we change.
I have been an advocate, of that the National Electoral Commission, that's in this case, in the case of Nigeria, the INEC should be the one handling the local government elections. For instance, because I believe that we have not yet matured to that level as to be able, to do what obtains abroad. I mean, in advanced democracies.
Yeah.
No, not at all. That's why you find out in a state controlled by PDP, in a local government election, you already know the result ahead. It's massive something. If it's APC, it's the same thing.
Exactly.
If it's YPP, it's the same thing for local government elections.
Yeah.
No, we can't continue like that. I believe that INEC should be handling the local government elections as well until such a time when we believe that, yes, now we are here and we can now, devolve such powers, to the state. But let's not deceive ourselves because we say, we are a federative unit and all of that. Okay, imagine the issue of state police.
Exactly.
That's what is still happening because people believe that, look, if you allow the state governments to be in charge and all of that, it's going to be politicized. And it's going to, the security implications will be too far-reaching, better imagined. So the best thing, now we have a constitution review committee in place.
Right.
I think they are even meeting now and all of that.
Right.
That issue must be on the front burner
of the state police.
Yes. No.
Okay.
The issue of state INEC and federal INEC and all that. It must be.
Yeah, and all of those issues, because what I'm actually trying to get at is that we do need some very fundamental constitutional changes.
Absolutely.
And the INEC one is one, but you also talked about even the state police is also one of the things that we need to be looking at.
Yes. And exactly. The Honorable just made the point, really, because you see the clamor for state police. On the surface, it's okay. But when you look at the powers donated to the states, in other areas and what they are doing with it, you become scared.
By the way, do you also agree with him that INEC should
yes, of course.
Okay.
Certainly. But it's much more of the mindset, really. Believe you me. Even if you ask INEC to do it, to conduct the elections there, of course, it will change the dynamics. But we are also complaining about the role of INEC at the national level, isn't it?
Yeah.
So that our mindset, if you look at the amount of resources, time, and the intellectual, resources that has been invested by INEC, because I worked closely with them when I was the chairman of IPAC. Believe you me, you would think that we will reach an El Dorado as far as elections are conducted, because everything you want to talk about as far as resources, equipment, digitalization, IT facilities, what have you, is concerned, they have it. But when it comes to the operators, people that are going to operate this system now, that's where the challenges come from.
Interesting.
The human nature, the human angle is the problem that we're having. So, but as we continue to improve on the removing manual, involvement and, migrating to this digitalization, perhaps that will on its own maybe check the excesses of the human involvement.
Okay. All right. So let me bring it to Mr. Meseko. Do you think the president should make a new constitution a priority? And I ask that question because, a lot of us come out of the progressive movement, and this has always been our mantra forever, that Nigeria do need a true federal constitution. Now, the patriots, led by Chiwemeka Anyaoku, had visited the president and they said that this is what we want to do. The president said, you guys can go on, but this is not my priority now. But in your own view, and I know that you're a member of the NWC, but you're also, you're clearly a leading Nigerian politician who has his own views. Don't you think the president ought to make the issue of a new constitution a priority? Shouldn't he?
Well, on a personal note, I think the president has done that. I mean, because of what the National Assembly is doing presently.
Well, those have become every 4 years.
Well,
Ukraine with the thing. We have to, don't you think? I'm sorry to probably, you get the full charge.
No, it is important. I mean, if we are talking about constitutional amendment, I mean, on a personal view, of course, why not
new constitution?
A new constitution. Because it may not be absolute.
Of course.
Completely, yes. But
because this constitution that we say that we the people...
No, it's the military.
It's the military that
exactly, that gave it to us. So, of course, why not? As a Nigerian, I will want a situation where we will be able to contribute meaningfully
so that
into repackaging a new constitution that will guide us, our daily living, our daily affairs, and so on and so forth. And the president being a Democrat himself, a progressive, right from time. I think the president will not be against it. I'm not sure the president will be against or making it a priority.
It's actually for him to make it a priority. That I think, because there are a lot of things that are, now that we're talking about the constitution, there are a lot of things that are wrong with the constitution. I'll give you an example. We say this is the federal constitution, okay? Now, I come from Ibadan, your state. If I want to start a business in Ibadan, I have to come and take a CAC license in Abuja. Why? I mean, why can't I just do everything I need to do and complete it in Ibadan? Also, the issue of resource control is a very fundamental thing that we have not really managed. And where it becomes very dramatic is in the issue of mining. So we recognize in our constitution that the states own the land, but we say the federal government owns what is inside the land. I mean, so there are quite a bit of absurdities that, maybe tinkering with the constitution may not sort out until we change the constitution itself, a constitution where we can say, we, the people of Nigeria, this is what we want. Let's study from Alhaji Sani.
Let me ask you too. When you say we,
yes,
we elected the people that are in the National Assembly today.
Yes.
Were they elected by the military?
No, they weren't. But they haven't made fundamental changes.
The issue is this. You see, I like the initiative of the Patriots. It's very good. People to show concern, passion for our country to work in a manner that it will give everybody sense of belonging and progress and advancement and things like that. But the issue of a wholesale change, a new constitution, is dead on arrival, sir.
Why?
Okay. Because this system of government we are running, it's a three-tier kind of thing. Sorry, it's a three-arms, government kind of.
Legislative, executive, and judiciary.
Right. And unfortunately, again, this issue of constitution rests squarely with the arm of government that will not want what you are saying to happen, because you are telling them that they should abrogate and vacate the mandate given to them by the people, and now manufacture or bring about another constitution that will spell something differently from what you have today, which in number one, I've never seen, like an emperor that will preside over the disintegration of his empire.
Well, we don't want them to have emperors.
I'm just using it as a saying. I'm just saying it to just to elucidate, and then make my point. I'm not saying they're emperors, but who says they're not even emperors? Look at the way they are behaving. The emperor will not behave.
This is why we need a true constitution.
But you will not get it from where the train has left that station a long time ago. So what I think will remain, what I think we have to really concentrate on is how do we get these minutiae changes that we're having in the Constitution, to give us what we are looking for. Because I don't know how you will tell a senator, that, sir, you have to vacate, we want a new system of electoral.
Let's bring it to Mr. Meseko, and in bringing it to him, let me say that the plan of the Patriots, actually they had a national political summit, I think a couple of weeks ago here in Abuja, and they got two leading senators, one from the PDP, Senator Aminu Tambuwa, and one from the APC, Senator Bringa Daniel, to lead the National Political Summit. So don't give up on what might happen. But let's hear from Mr. Mexico, and then we'll come back to you.
No. The only thing that I see as a stumbling block, a major stumbling block, is the provision of the Constitution. Because, some of these amendments, even if they are to be made, has to pass through yes, thoughts of these
24 states.
Exactly.
So
you could imagine, even when we're talking of autonomy, financial autonomy for state houses of assembly, most of them will vote against it.
Yeah. Even
for your own self. Yes. For local governments. They vote against it.
Because you're afraid of the governor.
Exactly. So those are fundamental issues. So it has to do with us.
Yeah.
There must be that deliberate.
Yeah. So, Mr. Meseko, how do we come around some of those things? Because you raised a very important thing. If you have a state assembly that is meant to be an independent arm of government, but it's taking orders from the governor, that's not the intendment of the Constitution.
Absolutely.
So how do we beat that problem?
Well, we just have to, like you said, not give up. Keep trying. Yeah. For instance, I think it's this year or last year that Supreme Court ruled that the local government autonomy, financial autonomy. Is it happening now?
No,
it's not. Exactly. So it has to do with us. And the president has been hammering on that every now and then. He calls on state governors, Mr. Governors, please, 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 let's do this. Let's do this. Let's do this. So it has to do with us as a people. So we must be deliberate about this. Well, what I would suggest is we just have to keep advocating. The advocacy must be very strong for some of these changes to be able to take root, and succeed.
So we keep trying. Alaji.
Yeah. Like the Honorable says, believe you me, the advocacy and the consistency of really, stating these points that we need to do this, for our own sake. But most importantly, sir, the electorates,
right,
are not in the form and the shape that they can really fight for these changes that will serve them, as we have it. Because why? Look at the poverty level in the country. Look at the level of ignorance. And anywhere you have these two things, you cannot expect the citizens in that respect to be independent, to have, because democracy presupposes that you will have the freedom of judgment and then decision making,
right,
independent of somebody else, that you will make your own decision based on. So here, like we know, it's real that elections are purchased. Judgments are purchased.
But like Sani, is it not in the best interest of the political elite to make sure that this ignorance and poverty is dealt with? Because look, it's like a time bomb. Those two things, ignorance and poverty, left unchecked, it's not going to be like that forever, based on history. So is it not in the interest of the political elites to come together and say, let's solve this problem, so that in our own enlightened self-interest, so that it doesn't become a problem that we blow in our faces? Chief Obafemi said it. He said that if you don't take care of the children of the poor, your own children will not sleep. And there are instances in this country where that is already happening. So is it not up to the political elites to sort that problem? First,
yes. No, I agree with you. But, as how do I describe Bola Ahmed Tinubu's administration? It's so punitive, it's so harsh, it's so bold, on taking decisions that affects the welfare of the citizens of this country. But there's one thing you can't take away from him, which is what you have just said now. I like his programs on education. The NAL fund, these funds that has been brought, which is to address some of these things we are talking about.
Right.
But then the state governments are also supposed to come up with their own initiatives too. How do you address the issue of education in their states?
Yeah, because it's a concurrent issue.
Exactly, concurrent issue. So this, perhaps, if the government, I'm talking about president now,
right,
can use its position to, like Honorable was saying on the issue of the local governments and people, to say that you must have something tangible on education. And at least he can start with the governors who are in his party. Give them key performance indicators in areas like education, that every month or every quarter or every year, I want you to tell me, how far have you gone with the issue of education, health, and other things? So perhaps if we do that, we may start by addressing the issue you are saying, that the political elites, because the political elites are only the elected people. Like the Honorable here, we are not elected. They are the ones that can. we are party that.
Thank you very much. Well, Laulu, I think my own take is, yes, you are right. It's a time bomb. And that's why President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, well, I won't call his reforms punitive, because it's welfareistic, because it's aimed at achieving,
that's where it's going.
Yes.
But right now there's a lot of effort.
Well, yes, before you get...
some of us are even afraid.
Before you get gold,
I hope we don't...
passes through...
I hope we don't get a stink-born baby. After we go through the pains of...
we won't get stillborn baby.
Okay.
Last week we had NEC, when we, welcomed our new national chairman. Yeah. And I recall, even at the presidential villa, the president was still calling on governors to sit up.
That's true.
They said that, look, I have given you more than enough. It's not only federal government that is there. You governors, most of them before were taking 3 billion, 2 billion, but now it's averagely 18, 20 billion per month. In
federal allocations.
Yeah, allocations. Yeah. They are even happy. They say it that they've never had it. So it's not just for rhetoric. It's for you to perform, to help the common man. And also the local governments. Averagely, most of them now 500 million per month. Imagine what 500 million would do in the local government. If, for instance, the state governors allow the local governments to breathe. So these are fundamental issues. Right. But I agree with you that Mr. President, I know he's doing it. I'm a member of APC, and I know what he tells the governors, to do and other. Even the performance in the, indicators that you said, okay, he has to give them this. Of course, he's doing it. We are even doing it as a party.
That's good.
Even right now, we have decided that we'll be visiting state governors to see some of these things with this area, that area, and all of the NEL fund and all other issues that Mr. President has put in place to alleviate, all these things that you are talking about. They're all there.
The one thing Mr. President can do for us is to allow EFCC to tell us who are these 18 governors, sitting governors. Who are the 18 governors?
The one, the EFCC.
Yes.
Well, they have their ways of not just revealing their...
Because believe you me,
what is happening? Investigating.
Yeah, well...
So it will be like... It will be subjudice. For instance, if now they are saying, is this governor, which means already, they'll be accused of...
Fully at some point, we will get those names.
Absolutely.
Long after they've left their offices.
Hopefully not. Because of our time, and I want us to wrap up. Now, I want us to talk about 2027 and opposition policy. And I will start from Alhaji Sani. You've described the policies of the president as punitive and all of it. Of course, Mr. Miseko has objected. But you haven't joined the opposition. So why haven't you joined the opposition?
Where is the opposition?
Okay, please address the issue.
Where is the opposition?
So is there no opposition? You are supposed to even be an opposition yourself, Alhaji Sani.
No. The opposition that you're supposed to have.
Yes.
Opposition that really means paradigm shift from what we are having today in this country. Who there in the so-called opposition that has not done worse than what this president is doing today?
Honestly, I must say that I agree with you. You know, and this has been my whole take about
So I don't know. That's why I find it difficult to even place them and what the lies they are telling Nigerians. Because
but how are we going to get an opposition indeed?
ADP is coming.
Okay.
If you can be patient, instead of Democratic Party, we are.
Well, so now you're asking us to be patient, just like Mr. President said, we should be patient for the hate notes. No, we should be patient for anything to come.
So you know, because I like I said, even Mr. President himself says that his programs are painful, punitive. They are.
No,
you know,
punitive is a harsh word.
I think he said painful.
If you say painful, it's different. It's like a woman in labor.
Punitive in the sense that
because punishment means punishment.
It's punishment.
No. When the president was in his euphoria of winning the election, that was about to be sworn in or after sworn in, and he announced subsidy is gone. So what packages? Why didn't you have something that commensurate with the kind of pains that will come to them, especially knowing that you are operating under an economic situation that has weak structures, you know, as far as the indigent. I'm talking about people that are not elites, like you said, who are in more than 75% of the population.
Yeah.
So I would say that the situation.
How have you taken care of people that are 103 multi-dimensional poor Nigerians?
We found ourselves that time, by the time he took over, demanded that immediate solution.
That's simple.
If for us to save a country that was almost gone.
To increase price.
Because we were right at the precipice then.
No. Government is not like that. There's no.
I'm telling you.
If Buhari was to be alive and this government is on, the precipice you are talking about, we just say we're at the precipice. There's not going to be any. The point I'm making is this: I'm not saying that he shouldn't take decisions he has taken. You know, I run for a presidential, seat here. I will do the same thing, but I will bring out a program that will address these punitive measures against the poor. That's the point I'm making.
That's why we are talking on NEL fund. That's why we are talking of student loans. That's why we are talking of all these things happening here and there.
No. You see, NEL fund is something that is not of immediate, like the removal of subsidy. You know, the punitive effect of moral subsidy is not the same thing. A NEL fund is a futuristic thing that will begin to now give us, hope in the country that you have people that
CNG was done immediately.
CNG, where how many people are riding in the CNG buses, compared to what you have. You see, the issue is that I know that he was in a predicament, in the sense that the law, which was inherited, that is the budget inherited, the PIA, had already taken, the subsidy
away.
Yeah, but by law, like I was telling you,
yes.
I don't like governments to act in a lazy manner, because why don't you task yourself and think out of the box and see how do I manage this situation of subsidy that is no longer, because as a government you can as well approach this assembly that I want you to do it this way as a government.
If I was president of Nigeria, I would do what President Bola Ahmed.
Government is not about making profit.
Subsidy should
government
not allowed to stay 1 minute.
No, government is not about making profit. And if you must be sincere with yourself, the same president announced that there were Nigerians, isn't it, who were taking advantage of the poor. The subsidy was not going to where it should go to. Exactly. Who are those Nigerians? Up to date, nobody has told us.
Yeah, but some of them are facing trials in court. About 2-3 weeks ago, I still saw some 2 young men that were, I think, even convicted, in a Lagos on subsidy.
I agree with you. Yes. I agree with you. But look at the issue of the one on the foreign exchange. The subsidy removal on the foreign exchange, you mean that we are no longer funding Naira,
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yes.
The origin of the parallel market.
Good.
Yeah.
Why do you think that the CBN or the monetary policies, why do you think they're working in the manner that stabilizing the economy to an extent? It's because Mr. President didn't just stop at saying that I'm withdrawing this subsidy.
Yes.
He took action.
Exactly.
He took action. He made the central bank governor to face the music. Why did he wait? Why did he wait almost 2 years before asking MMPC to face the same music?
No.
What happened?
Well,
why?
I'm not the.
No, go ahead.
Okay. Well, you see, with all the parameters, ahead in front of him, I'm sure with the president that I know will take that decision based on what is right before his desk. And I'm sure what is right before his desk and the time that he will have taken to take the decision will be in the best interest of the country.
All right, let's move along because of our time, and there's a few more things that I want to touch, starting with Mr. Museko. What was happening to Kwakwanso? Is Kwakwanso coming to APC or not? Tell us.
Well, we want everybody, if possible, even my dear brother here, ADP, to come into APC to help us run Nigeria. So, as an APC member, it will be, my joy to have a politician, an experienced politician like Kwankwaso join us. So for now, I cannot be, firm in asserting it that, he's coming to join us.
But there are moves.
Well,
are you aware of moves?
Yeah, there are several. We hear, rumors here and there. Oh, this governor is coming. That one is coming, and all of that. And don't forget that personally, Kwankwaso had been a personal friend of Mr. President for long.
Yeah.
So there'll be nothing wrong if he says,
governors.
"Oh, they were governors." Yes. So there's nothing wrong if he says, "Oh, please, let me also, join." You knew then, even when Mr. President was coming on board, there was even this talk then about him running as running mate and all of that before. He fell apart and all that. So in politics, never say never. Anything is possible.
Yeah, one more question, and then I'll go to Mr. Yabagi. Just.
Oh, okay. I thought you wanted to contribute.
I know you will. But I also wanted to ask him that. So the ADC says that APC is harassing them. The former chairman of ADC said that they offered him 3 ministerial slots, and they are saying that ADC is saying that APC is terrorizing. They don't want ADC to emerge. Okay? That was an example. They said Mr. Ralph, who came out and said that yes, they offered me 3 ministerial slots, to stop me from cooperating with the new leadership of ADC. Is APC?
I would advise you to take such allegation with a pinch of salt. We are not scared. As a matter of fact, APC wants robust opposition. We've always said it. That look, constructive engagement, that's what makes democracy thrive. And that's what we expect.
Okay.
And that was why I was very happy when my brother here said ADP is coming. We are waiting. But come constructively.
Of course.
Not
certainly
destructively.
No.
Exactly. No. You have the last word, Sani.
Yeah, what I was going to say is that what Mr. President needs, President Bola Ahmed Tinubu needs, it's not Konkoso. The Konkoso he needs is make life better for the common Nigerian. This horrendous situation we are in, as far as hunger is concerned, insecurity is concerned. And also, you must be intentional about appointments to the federal government, positions. A situation where you allocate the entire strategic sector of the economy to one zone, and your zone in particular, the financial sector, does not augur well for any president, I'm telling you.
Do you think
Buhari did the same thing? We are not happy. We criticized him.
I'm going to say that. Do you think he's trying to outdo?
But as a Democrat, we believe that he has the entire nation as his constituency because he has mingled with everybody that you can think of, Bola Ahmed Tinubu, before he became the president. So he shouldn't have fears or doubts of somebody's bad, circumstance. I didn't ask to be born in the north or wherever, so why should that work against me? So 2 things he needs to do. That's the concourse what he needs, is to ensure that the north feels its impact. The southeast also feels its impact. It's not only southwest. Yeah. It's not a president for only the Yorubas. He's a president of this country. We all vote. They all voted for him. I didn't vote for him because I have my own party, But of course, if you remember the role I played when he was about to be declared, when the coalition was going on at ICC, I couldn't have done better, by ensuring that I changed the course of history of this country to ensure that democracy survived that day. Because I knew that the person coming is a full-fledged Democrat, and we're not going to have what we're having today.
And sir, I want to say, sir, on a final note, on just this point that you made,
yes,
is similar to what Kwankwaso said last week. And the president dispatched a very high-level delegation to the Sadana program last week.
Yes.
That, look, I have even done more for the North. He proved it. And people were shocked. They said, we don't have this information. For instance, the 25 billion he recently gave to Northern governor and said, go and use it for infrastructure. Nobody knew about it. He brought out statistics and said, look, I'm a president for Nigeria. I'm not just for Yorubas. I'm for the North, and this and this and this are what I'm doing presently in the North. Even in the area of security, he also mentioned it. Then the Southeast, the South, everything. So I want to, maybe I had to get you some of these documents to show what the president is doing. The president is a president for all. He's not a president for Yorubas.
Nigeria. Okay, if that is the end of the conversation, it looks like a good place to wrap it up. We can't finish the conversation in one day. There are a lot of things that are happening. We hope that in 2027, or going to 2027, we hope that we can have a robust, engagement where the politicians are concerned about the people, not just about the election.
Yes.
And that's where we think we should take our politics to. Thank you so much for coming. Thank you, Alhaji Yabagi Sani, chairman of the Action Democratic Party, and Honorable Duro Meseko, a former member of the House of Representatives and a member of the National Working Committee of the ruling APC. Thank you for coming to Inside Sources.
Thank you.
Like we always say, Nigeria will prevail. Nigeria will prevail because we will continue to push the issues, and hopefully we'll get a break one day. Thank you for watching. My name is Laulu Akonde, and by the grace of God, I'll see you at the next edition.